It is time to talk about the money. So earnings, Upwork fees, that sort of thing. So how much is going to go in your bank account when you're doing the work? And what's the right strategy when you're considering all of these things? All right, so let's dive into it. The first thing I want to talk about is small jobs versus long-term jobs. So small jobs, you could define a small job as a low amount that you'll get paid, or it could be a decent amount of money, but it's once you do it, it's over and there's no more work. Where a long-term job is you do maybe a defined project up front, but there's an opportunity this is going to go on for months or years, or turn into an even bigger financial opportunity on a weekly basis. All of those things. So let me show you a couple of examples. And we're going to go into an entire section of this course about looking for work. But I want to point out the impact that small jobs versus long-term jobs when it comes to money. So you want to be thinking about a strategy. Do I want to get a whole bunch of little jobs for $100, $300, $400, $500, $600? They're done and they're over. Or do I want to consider trying to get a few long-term jobs, or maybe 5 long-term jobs with 5 clients that just keep going forever and ever? So there's advantages and disadvantages to each. So here's what I would consider a small job and what it might look like. Someone that's looking at spending $400 or somewhere in that range, $400, and they've got a website made. Please see the file attached to get a general idea what needs to get done, and don't hesitate to reach out. And so most likely when you dive into this further, you're going to say we need this, 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 and this done to complete our website, the end. And that's sort of basically it. So it might be worth digging in a little further to see if there's a long-term opportunity, but I don't really see any indication that this is long-term. And in fact, if you go down here, project type, it says one-time project. Now, that said, once you start a relationship with someone, they may want to hire you for other things. And these are all things you can find out as you go into conversations with folks. But I think it's a good idea to be looking for them as you're browsing through and searching through some of the jobs that have been posted. So to me, this one looks and feels and smells like a small job, short-term sort of opportunity. Then I look at this one over here, manage social media marketing for 3 websites. And just the title makes me think, okay, well, maybe this is 3 websites, it's marketing, it's probably ongoing. Now the budget of $100, that makes me think this can't be a very big project. But then when I kind of read through it, they slip in this: person who execute this project to satisfaction will be hired for long term. So just because it doesn't necessarily look like it from a budgeting perspective, maybe they're going to have a really tight pilot project to make sure you know what you're doing, and then they're going to hire you long term. So that could be an exciting opportunity, and they have put down here project type, ongoing project. But don't assume that people necessarily fill these parts out right. You want to go through and read the actual description. So there's something to think about. And I also want to point out here, let me see. I want to point out experience and earnings level. This is a very important component of what I want to get across to you. And we're gonna talk about it more as well. Let me flip back to this job. You can see up here, this person who posted this says, "I'm willing to pay higher rates for the most experienced freelancer." I think we touched on this just a little bit in one of the previous lessons, but let me see if I have something else I want to. Yeah, let me go through this just for a second and bring this up. Upwork, in their example, has a way of posting jobs that says, "I'm willing to pay just the entry-level dollar amount, intermediate dollar amount, and I'm willing to pay expert dollar amount." So that means they're posting the job saying, "I'm looking for the best of the best, and I recognize it's going to cost me the most money." And then subsequently, intermediate will cost a little bit less, and entry level is going to cost a lot less. Let me just show you, when you go searching for jobs, and again, we've got a whole section of this course designed to searching and looking for work, but you go to the Find Jobs section here, And when you go into one of your categories, and again, don't worry where exactly I'm going here because we're going to be looking at this in more detail later, but it allows you to filter your job selection. And one of the places you can filter by is entry-level jobs, intermediate jobs, and expert-level jobs. And frankly, I only look at expert-level jobs. I do it simply because I know they're going to pay better. I also like their expectations better. Because sometimes I think people that are trying to squeeze every penny out of everything actually have higher expectations than those that are willing to pay a fair fee for something. So that's some psychology to keep in mind. Just because you're willing to work at an entry level, in dollar compensation wise, don't think that means the jobs are easier. Sometimes those people can be a little bit harder. Okay, so let's go back, and other things that you want to take into account when you're doing jobs and making sure you're getting earning the type of money you should be are something called milestones. And I think this is a common term across freelance sites, but there may be other terminologies, but basically it could be like a percentage. Once we get a percentage of the work done, you're going to receive a percentage of the payout. This is very important. I think it's always a good idea, especially on bigger projects or brand new clients, to say, you know what, when I get this, and this done, I would like you to pay me this dollar amount or this percentage of the overall project. It shows confidence on your end. It also prevents you from doing a massive amount of work and then having a problem at the end of it. It's always good to see if they'll pay you the way they're supposed to. So that's an important thing. Whenever you can set a milestone, I really recommend it. And then comes freelancing site fees. And if you've done work on freelancing websites, you can really freak out about how much money Upwork or Freelancer, or I'm trying to think of some of the other freelance sites at the top of my head, and what percentage of the job, the income they take. So if you get all hung up on this isn't fair, how dare they take 10% of the money that I earned, or 5%, or 20%, like, it just seems crazy. What I'm actually going to suggest is don't stress it. Okay? Now, the truth is, as of this recording, Upwork's made some changes to the fees that they charge, and because all of these freelance sites, or virtually all of them, are going to take a percentage of every single dollar that you earn. And whether you think that's fair or not, I would say it is fair because they're building these entire communities. But regardless of what you think about how fair or not it is, don't stress it. Here's what I mean, and this is what's really worked for me, is develop your own relationships with clients. So the value that Upwork, freelancer.com, other sites like this, the value they bring is they help establish trust between a freelancer like us and someone like that is posting a job. And they hold the money in what's called an escrow account. So the person that's hiring you has to actually fund the project, but you don't get the money. And I know many of you are already familiar with this. But then money has to be released once you both come to an agreement. So it helps facilitate this trust in building that relationship. And so I think they deserve money for that. But frankly, I'm not going to keep a relationship going for years and years and years and continue to pay freelancing websites a percentage of the money. Now, you may think that you should, and if you never really have trust with that client, then I guess it's a good idea. I think it would be crazy to not progress that relationship. And I mean, how do you propose this? So I propose it pretty simply. When I'm having an actual conversation over the phone or on Skype, or on a communication method outside of the freelance job, I say, once I trust the person, I say, you know what, listen, why are we giving a percentage of this to the freelance site? I trust you, you trust me. Why don't we set it at this dollar amount? You pay me through this, whatever method you come up with, checks or PayPal or whatever. And you go with it from that. And it actually helps reduce the amount of money that they're paying, or you get a raise, or you meet somewhere in the middle and they pay less and you get more. So it really makes a lot of sense once you've established that trust. So again, I don't get big hang-ups on how much the freelance sites want to charge for fees. I pay for it. I basically am paying them. You don't have a choice. when you start the work. And eventually I move my relationship to the next level with my own client, and they become private, which I think is fair. Maybe somewhere deep in the bowels of these freelance sites say you're not allowed to do that, but I don't think they have any right to say that. So just keep those communications. I think you want to develop your communications with your clients offline anyway. I don't know how much you really want to put through these freelance sites. So I think that's the way to do it. And you want to eventually own that relationship yourself. And that way you don't have to worry about the site fees. So anyway, you can tell that's how I feel about that. And you don't need to get all hung up on those particular fees. So there we go. So we've talked about money, the money, along with earnings and Upwork fees. And we're going to talk more about the earnings levels in particular. Don't discount yourself. Don't discount yourself. And it's funny from a sales perspective, when you're selling yourself to someone, showing that you're willing to do it for very, very little money is actually not a positive. To me, it shows a lack of confidence, and I frankly don't want to work for people that aren't willing to pay me a decent amount of money anyway. So anyway, I could go on and on, but I won't. That's the end of this one. We'll see you in the next lesson.